asked one of them, I said, how do you, they can just take a deep breath and get those good numbers? But he said the drills are a good indicator of athletic capabilities, but some of the guys that aren't as athletic or as gifted in that way that
didn't see a lot of passing early in the game. You saw a lot of one-on-one basketball. It was obviously very sloppy with his, excessive turnovers from both teams. So be interesting to see how
around and out. Rebound going to Taron Armstrong. Miller running the floor, able to convert. Let's go down to Gianna. Get more on Emmanuel Miller. Taron Armstrong lining up the three-point shot, and that's got to feel good. Hit the 23 in black.
And if there was anybody we thought was the best player of the day yesterday, it was obviously Lee with how he played.
And how about Armstrong 2 in a row?
Yeah.
Pass inside, Carlson not able to control it. Almost winds up with a turnover, but he gets it back. There you go. He gets the lay-in to fall here in the opening half. Walter Clayton Jr. shot blocked by Tomlin. Might have been a goaltend. They say play on.
Yeah, I think that was a goaltend, quite honestly. But, try to force a shot up. Just a lot of inconsistencies and not getting a lot done offensively.
Team Black just casting up three-point shots. Caleb Love missing on the three-point attempt. Here comes Team Black. The step-through move in transition is no good, but Naquan Tomlin on the spot with the follow jam.
And one of those guys is Terry Darlin. Terry Darlin, he wasn't as vocal on Team Ignite this year in the G League, and I talked to a scout who said they saw...
But that's what we were talking about in the first game, that not only is this, a tryout for, the players, we're talking about the coaches are getting exposed, the officials, they're constantly getting graded even in the offseason.
So a couple more free throws for Rupstavicius.
Remember, we addressed this in the first game about the ability of a player to develop your own energy. I mean, you can hear how quiet it is in here for this second game. There's no fans. The people that are here, they're all general managers, they're executives. They're not cheering for any one player. You see, as you constantly look around, you see these, where we are, we can look over the shoulder of some of these executives. They've got their computers out, they're taking notes on these players. Half the time they've got their head down, you wonder how much action they actually miss. That's why you really have to take advantage of the time that you're given and try to excel the whole time. You can't take a play off.
This is Walter Clayton Jr. running the point. He played at Florida this past season. They dunked the ball inside to Carlson. The ball knocked away, and here comes Team Black, trailing in the early going, 11-3. Stepped on the sideline. It'll be a turnover. Go back to Team White.
It was interesting to see how often that particular play right there, an unforced error, was just stepping on the sideline, happened in that first game. I don't think the width of the court has changed,
No, it hasn't changed. It measures the same. Adama Ball stepping out of bounds that time. Nice shot block from behind. The ball knocked out of bounds. It's going to go over to Team Black.
That's where you just have to have communication, and you look at that. Kaluma from Kansas State did a nice job of sliding down from the top in order to get the block from behind.
Arthur Kaluma cut off. Perimeter jumper is good. Matthew Morrell, who was a good three-point shooter in Mississippi, had really good stats. And he's a guy that the NBA people will be looking at because of the ability to shoot that three ball.
Yeah.
Morrell shot 40% from three-point range this past season, averaged 16 points a game. Another three-pointer on the other end. That goes to Adama Ball.
Ball from Santa Clara did a nice job. I mean, you see that a lot now in the NBA as far as even if a team has numbers, guys coming down, pulling up from the three. In the past, that used to be a bad shot, but also because you have numbers, you have the ability to get an offensive rebound if there is a miss.
And off the turnover, that's Estrada scoring. So all of a sudden, we get a run of points for Team White.
It is early on, Mark. Both these two teams and players are trying to fill each other out.
Look at the top prospects available in the 2024 NBA Draft.
Over these next 2 days, 45 college, G League, and international players will go through drills. They'll also compete in games, hoping to earn an invitation to the actual NBA Combine, which starts on Monday. The Combine features the top 75 prospects voted on by NBA executives. And with that, we welcome you inside Wintrust Arena alongside the four-time NBA champion and first-round draft pick out of Vanderbilt. That was 1988, wasn't it, Will?
It was a few years ago, yes.
This is Will Perdue. I'm Mark Shanowski. Welcome in. This is day one. We'll have a couple of games today, 2 more games coming up tomorrow. And for these guys that are competing behind us, their lives are at stake trying to get an NBA future.
Yeah, and one of the things that they have to do is prove to these scouts and these front office executives is how can I as an individual fit into the team atmosphere of what it is you're trying to do. Remember, there's 30 teams. It only takes one. But the question is, what is that one thing that makes one team want to bring you to what they're doing this week, but also possibly the summer league as well?
So there's 4 teams, the 45 guys divided up. It's going to be Team 1 against Team 2 in our first game. Boogie Ellis plays on Team 1. He was a late addition to the NBA G League Elite Camp. He was a little bit disappointed he didn't get invited to the actual Combine, hoping to earn a spot there. He was a pretty prolific scorer at USC.
Yeah, he really was. And listen, the biggest thing for Boogie Ellis, Mark, is that you go back and look at his numbers last year, 42% from behind the three-point line. Now, how does that carry over from the college three-point line to the NBA three-point line? Because as we know, it's a perimeter-oriented game, and if he proves he can consistently knock down the three, he'll get a lot of looks from these coaches and GMs and executives while he's here.
And it is a guard's game in the modern NBA, and Jameer Nelson Jr. has that pedigree. His dad, a longtime NBA backcourt player. He's now the general manager for the Delaware Bluecoats. And Jameer Nelson Jr. is the guy who did a lot of things well in college.
He did, but as you said, a lot of things well, kind of a jack of all trades. He's the type of guy that because of his pedigree will get a look. But then he has to prove, again, what can I do from a point guard standard or just a guard in general to help make a team better? What kind of leader can I be? How can I run a team? Unfortunately for him, he hasn't had the best numbers throughout his career of shooting, either field goals or from behind the three. So he's got to find a way that he can stick into the minds of these general managers and executives.
So we'll be telling stories about the players throughout the game broadcast this afternoon. But for now, let's toss it down to our courtside reporter, Gianna Hearn. She has more on the players' experience here in the city of Chicago.
This has been such an experience for the guys that have been here. Already, they've been through so much before they even hit the court. Today, they're doing all the physical things. They're, like you mentioned, doing the strength drills. They're getting measured, and then they're playing 5-on-5. But yesterday, all of them went through what they call their first job interview with me. I interviewed all 45 players, and that's really something that takes up a lot of mental space because a lot of these kids, they've been interviewed in college, but they haven't been interviewed to this magnitude where we're asking everything. And so their agents prior to this prep them on how do you tell your story the best. And there were some guys that were pretty nervous, and then there were guys that were very, very confident. So we're going to see how that shakes out today. But scouts, when they're coming to this, they've been watching them on film for months, all throughout the seasons, but they want to see, does their physical makeup actually look like it in person? Now they get to actually see these guys, interview these guys. These guys have so much going on. After they're playing on the court, they'll have individual interviews. Some of them are hosting a pro day for these teams. So when it comes to pressure, there's no small stakes here, guys. So many scouts, front office members sitting in these seats. They're filling this arena. All eyes are on these players. And some of the players told me the most unique and hardest part about this is not having your friends and family in here cheering. You're not getting that element of the excitement. It's pretty quiet in here when the games will play. We'll see that. Back to you guys.
All right, Gianna, thanks a lot. We look forward to your insight throughout the games this afternoon. We're ready to go in game number 1. It's Team 1 against Team 2. So what should we look for, Will?
Well, let me go back to what Gianna talked about because of how quiet it is in here. This is a good stern test for these guys about how they develop their own energy. There's no crowd to feed off of. There's no family. There's no friends. You're here trying to impress the GMs and the executives. So how do you go about doing that when we can technically, from our vantage point, still hear what's going on down on the floor because there are no fans here. So they got to have to figure this out as well because this is an unusual atmosphere for them in a game-type setting.
Yeah, when you give a pan of the crowd, you'll see people in the seats, but these are all NBA scouts and executives, decision makers, evaluating these guys to see if they may have the
right stuff to make an NBA team down the line. And we just want to make sure you know what you're looking at. The Team 1 squad is in the black jerseys. Team 2 is in the gray. You just saw Boogie Ellis hit the free throw line. He was featured in our open. And USC, most of the attention this year went to a guy named James, Bronny James, who was a backup to Boogie Ellis. And Boogie and Isaiah Collier are guys that did the scoring load at USC, and they're probably wondering, you know, Boogie in particular, why I didn't get an invite to the actual combine.
But what you saw from Boogie right there, as we talked about in the open, his ability to knock down the open three, right? 42% on the season. But what I noticed in that first